Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
All right, here we are, Matt. We almost missed our weekly deadline. I mean, we had a lot of crap going on.
Was gonna say we had some busy but both of us had our own busy week or two, it feels like. So
Yeah.
but we did say we're not missing it. Commitment,
Now,
right?
a day late, but not a dollar short because we don't make anything on this, so it doesn't matter. But so I was talking to I was listening to a podcast today, and I was talking to my students, and the same thing came up that everybody complains the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And then everybody wants a 3-day week, a 4-day week, a 5-day week. And we've touched base on this before that whatever your work schedule is for your employer, 3, 4, 5, 40 hours, 50, whatever. What do you do with the other time, the other hours? And I feel like the most successful people took those hours and found a way to make more money, whether it's a second job and they saved everything, whether it's an apartment, whether it's some sort of asset. But we've touched base on it before. Like I said, all right, you work 4 days or 5 days. What do you do on the 6th day? And you compound that over years. And that's literally how the rich get richer. You following me on this, or did I ramble?
I'm following you 100%. I think there's two different things we're talking about here with them, both of which benefit the person putting in the work. And so you've got scenario one where you've got you're literally taking your free time and using it to start a business, to go to garage sales and buy things and flip them. There's a million different things that go on there. So there's that in which you're using your time, you're monetizing your time kind of directly in that sense, right? I'm creating something or I'm buying something and selling it, buying it at this and selling it for more. Really straightforward kind of side hustle kind of stuff, or whatever the case may be. And then the second one is my job requires me to work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, let's say. And there's people, I know several of them, people out there, I only have to work 4 days a week now and some of those kinds of things. And I'm going, if that's what you value, great. That's not for me to criticize, but there's a trade-off here, right? But they don't ever want to recognize that. They want to think they scam the system, but it never quite works out that way. The other one is the other one is that I was referring to is, well, I work 9 to 5, but I don't work 9 to 5. I'm in at 8 or 7, and I'm there till 6 or 7. And you know what? I don't have to not work Saturday. I can work 6 days a week if I want. And yeah, if you're not getting paid for it, and that's how you make your decisions, that's fine. But there are people who are willing to do that. And when their boss, their supervisor, the person who's in charge, the person who has influence on when the raises come or the promotions come, or if you don't think they recognize that and notice those types of things, there's only one person you're fooling. There's only one person you're hurting, and it's yourself. So no one says you have to do it, but I don't think the difference between levels of success, I won't say success and failure, I'll say levels of success, is in that the person who's more successful than me, and there's plenty of them, and let me tell you, I'm trying to go to their level next. It's not because they were smarter than me. And the people I'm more successful than, I can promise you it's not because I'm smarter than them. It's I don't work 8 hours a day. I don't work 5 days a week. I mean, now at time, now it's just different. I don't even track it that way. But at the time, I was working 60 hours a week for years and years and years. And no one made me. No one ever made me. I did what I had to do because I thought it was in the best interest of the company I was working for or the people I was working for. It was in the best interest of me. And I believe that. So I think those are two different ways of doing what ultimately means you want more of anything. want to be a better softball player, you take more, you hit more ball, take more grounders, right? You hit more balls, whatever you want to be a better basketball player, you shoot more shots, you spend more time in the weight room, whatever those things are. It's the same thing in these types of things, I guess. I sometimes I get hesitant that like everything's about chasing money. It's not, and I know you don't feel that way either, but it's sometimes they're good ways of looking at things. So that's what I see.
Now it's interesting because we probably should talk about it on the podcast more. We we kind of achieve the same thing through different paths, if that makes sense. Like I'm a teacher, right? So
Mhm.
I have half the year off. And so I value my time. I've had a lot of great things because of that. But what do I do with that time I have off? Do I just sit and watch Netflix? Do I go to a bar and drink every night? Do I I have other things that I've been developing, and some of it's coaching, and it doesn't always pay the highest level of income.
Right. That's not the point. Right.
No, and the point is you've busted your butt building what you've been building, but even when you have free time, and you can take your time different times than me, like we've had those discussions.
Sure.
But the thing we both have in common is when we have free time, that's great, but we're always thinking about what else we can do. What meaning can we provide, right? What purpose can we provide? What's the trade-off? And we're literally the two people that are going about it different ways, but it has nothing to do with money.
No. No,
And
right. It's what relationships can I build, right?
yeah,
How can I use my time in some sort of productive, valuable way that I value, right? Or you value.
yep. So when we were south this weekend, my wife and I we went to this. I don't even know how to explain it. We go to this place that's like a beekeeper's store. Like everything's honeycomb, everything's honey. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I don't even like honey. Like, so we walk in, I'm dragging my feet, and all of a sudden in the back, they have a mead bar. Have you ever had mead?
I have not.
So supposedly mead is the oldest alcohol in the world. So
Okay.
mead is honey, yeast, and water, basically.
Okay.
So when you're watching Game of Thrones and any Middle East movie, that's probably what they had. And
Okay.
then so I'm intrigued. All of a sudden I'm like, this is the best place we've ever come to in our life. I can't believe. And the person was really good about it. They're like, so at some point in time, some honeycomb was just left to die out in the wind, and then it probably got fermented by like yeast came and implanted itself and fermented it, and then somewhere somebody decided to eat or drink the stuff. Like
Right.
I
Sure.
don't know, that first person was a genius, I think, literally, or a crazy evil Knievel. And they have all these different things. So the old me would have been like, oh, fun day, let's buy a couple bottles. The new me is like, wow, look at the Finger Lakes. We have breweries, we have distilleries. There's nowhere that sells mead. And
Not that I
I
know
don't
of.
know I don't know what's gonna come of it, but I'm like, you know what? Like my point is that's the way my mind shifted from, all right, I have free time. It's not always about consuming, it's about, wow, anybody I come in contact with could be my next potential like partner or idea maker. And then maybe what, 9 out of 10 times, or probably more than that,
More.
nothing happens.
Right.
But just that mindset, we had a fun time with it.
It, I think it's all mindset. I think it's everything. I was having a conversation over the weekend, and I was gone too. I was down south as well, and I was having a conversation with someone in a business conversation, and it got talking about children, and I was referring to we were talking about his kids and my daughter, and this was someone I consider to be quite successful. And he was asking some questions about, well, what do you want your kid to have, and and I said, what I want my daughter to have is a mindset. That's what I want. It's not about what I could leave her. she'll probably listen to this and go, "What do you mean could?"
No, it's all tied up for hundreds of years. You can't. There's nothing she
but
can get.
but as much as I have my goals for that, which I do, but as much as that might matter, it doesn't matter. If I only had to choose one of two options, right? I can leave my child, my daughter, in my case, X amount of wealth, or whatever the case may be, assets, or the mindset, how to obtain, grow, care for those assets, or whatever she values in life. It's not even a conversation for me. It's not. There's no second thought. It's what you have up here, and how you look at the world, and what action you have to be willing to understand. You are in control. And I know it's interesting. There's a lot of people sometimes that a lot of people have a belief that everything is all preordained, right? And they don't have control. You know what, Paul? They might be right, okay?
I
But
don't know.
but I'll never know, okay? With me, I guess at some point, if I pass away and I meet some maker, and they tell me. But my point is, that doesn't do you any good. That mindset. You have to believe that your choices matter, and that you have that mindset of, like you said, where's the opportunity to start the mead business, or whatever it may be. That's the true value. And you have to develop your own mindset like that. And when you do, you start seeing the world differently. And then I think you have a responsibility to pass it on to your loved ones, your children, your family. And I don't mean push it down the throat by any means, but there's nothing more powerful than that, in my opinion. So it's interesting you say that about the mindset, because I was having that very conversation, and this gentleman who owns hundreds of franchises in different areas, different brands, different franchises. It was completely on the same page, and how that mindset changed his life as well. So I don't think there's any accidents there, Paul.
It's funny. Again, you're private sector. I'm the welfare public sector, and I say that because I'm paid. My job's paid for by taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's kind of welfare, right? And I mean, it has a bad.
Not in a negative way, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
But when you get to be my age, everybody's like, "Oh, 3 more years, 4 more years, get through the grind. What are we doing?" I have the conversation. I could technically leave now or in 1 or 2 years and still not collect my pension that the government's promised me for all my hard work, which I want, of course. I've earned it.
You earned it. Yeah, you made the deal. The deal's the deal.
But if something came up to me, if an offer came up to me today, I would leave, and they're like, "But what are you going to do the next 4 years till you collect your pension?" I'm not worried about it anymore. Like,
Right.
I'll be just fine. Like, so many people are held prisoner by their job and by what's promised. And again, I'm trying not to be a hypocrite, because I've put in all those years and I have that coming to me, but I'm not going to wait for it, if that makes sense.
Let me ask you a question, because this is very interesting. Because we had Easter at our house yesterday, and we had quite a few people over. One of which is a wonderful family member of ours, who is not a teacher, but she is a state employee, and she's my age, so she's been around 20 some years, I think, and has whatever amount to go. But she was being very critical of, here's how she put it. What happens is we create this culture where 5 more years, 3 more years, 20 more years. She goes, it's like we're doing time. It's like being in jail.
Yeah.
We're doing time. And she said, over the years, what I've seen, and I've never had this conversation with her, and it was very interesting to hear her talk about it. And her husband's a state employee as well. And they're saying, because they were saying there's this culture that gets created with this, and we are just riding it out. We're just waiting to get again, it's not a prison sentence, and she wasn't
No.
saying it was, but it creates this mindset of, when do I get out? When do I get out? And she says our productivity, our morale, the whole way we see what we do is turned in this negative way, as opposed to the positive things that they are doing. And she said they have a really difficult time with a lot of coworkers, because of this cultural mindset that's created with the way it's discussed, and kind of X amount until I can get out. So what's your thought on that?
Well, that's very real. I see it with a lot of
Okay.
educators, and I'm from the unique position. I wasn't an educator. I became an educator. And then
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of my beliefs, I became an educator at a place that most people don't even believe what I can do, right? That's a whole
Right.
nother conversation. So I don't understand, because I really feel, based on my experience, I would not keep myself in that position where I think I'm just doing time.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That being said, it's very easy once you get comfortable. Look at the security I'm promised.
Yes.
Look at what I'm gonna have said year, but there's no guarantees. Like, so I flip it, like, that said person, look at the security they're gonna have. But in the meantime, okay, you have 5 years left, 10 years left. What are you doing for when you finally are free from your sentence? What are you going to do? They think they're just going to do nothing and sit at a beach and have fun. And I think things deteriorate very fast because there's no meaning. Even in a
Bingo.
sick way, right now, the sentence they have, there's meaning behind it, because
Yes.
the meaning is the end game. So what's going to happen when it's over?
I think that's why there's a tremendous amount, and I don't wish I had some data to look at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wish we did.
Well, our fact checker, he's sick
Once
again.
again, didn't show up. Um, to see what where people survey in terms of their happiness and some of those kinds of things. But I bet I hypothesize that people might. I have this hypothesis. You ever hear um people in the Scandinavian countries usually test better for happiness. These are the happiest
Yep.
countries. Okay, that's a very common thing
Yep.
I've heard. I haven't done a study myself, and I can't say I've ever read through one, but I hear it a lot of times. And the
Right. I have
argument
to.
the argument goes, they kind of have more of these socialized programs. They have these pensions and these guarantees and some of these kinds of things. So that's what we or others should be doing, because look, they're testing happier than we are. And my hypothesis is this: when you don't have the ability to really go for it, I guess, really, for us, I look, you, me, anyone here in the United States, although it's not as easy as I think it should be, but we can kind of go for it, right? We can invent, we can come up with new ideas. We can get handsomely rewarded for these types of things. It's part of our culture, being entrepreneurial. It's a big part of who we are in this country. And a lot of people go for it, and some don't make it, but plenty do. And I don't think that mindset tests out, because we have a disparity, okay, Paul? Let me say this differently. Because we have a disparity in wealth greater than these other countries, people will test as unhappier
Right.
because, oh my gosh, I don't have what so and so has. So they think there's some failure to it or things that I don't believe. But so I don't think they test. But if you take a group of people and you kind of squeeze them together and say, here's the disparities are this big, well, now I'm happy because I'm just as good as everyone else. But I don't think that's the same thing as happiness, Paul. I don't think that's what it is. To me, happiness is opportunity, freedom, being able to come up with something and work my tail off and hope to win in the end and create value and have meaning. I think that's very different than what people would describe as happiness. And I don't think happiness, as I've said a million times, is what people should be chasing. So I think these studies or surveys that come out that look how happy these people in these other countries are, it's because they've squeezed the ability to win and lose in some of these areas. And again, I don't believe that personally, but I think that's what we're seeing. I don't think we're finding. I don't think they're the right terms.
Well, is the hamster in the wheel happy? Probably. Is the dog in the invisible fence happy? Probably. Is the elephant with a rope around him at a young age that grows up that could break out of the rope be happy? Yeah, because they don't know any better, right? And to you and I, our journeys are much different, but we both enjoy the journey and the process, and it has nothing to do with money. Like people could look at our income statements; they're completely different, but we're both on the journey we want, and we're both enjoying the process we want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of the point. It's like you've got to have the freedom to be on your journey and the meaning and the adventure that we talk about, right? And it's that adventure that I think is important, not whether I'm so safe that I don't have to worry about anything. And even if you think that's the case, believe me, life will turn that around on you quickly. But I don't care who you are, me, you, anyone.
Right.
But I don't. I think what people are when they take how they're describing happiness is more like this comfort level of the bills
Right.
are paid, the cars are in the garage, the heat's on, and we get to go on vacation for 2 weeks or whatever, 4 weeks or whatever it is. And then when
On our
I got
tax return. On our tax return. We're going on vacation because of our tax return.
and then I got after my 30 years I get to retire and off we go. So therefore I'm happy, and I don't think that's what we're actually talking about. I think that's misidentified. And again, it's just a hypothesis, and I wish someone who was a lot smarter than me and like could test. I proved in my PhD course level that statistical analysis wasn't always my strength, but I really wish there was some tests that would look into that a little deeper.
You sound like a scientist, if that counts for anything.
Yeah, I do sometimes, but I sound foolish a lot of other times.
But again, the hamster, the dog, and the elephant seem happy because they don't know any better. It's all based on comfort, right?
Yeah.
I wish I could.
Paul,
I wish I could think.
one of
Go
our
on.
guests we just talked to somewhat recently, I forget who exactly it was, said the same they said comfort's a killer. And I've always I don't want to make
Yeah,
it sound like I invented it, but I agree with that statement. It's a better way
it
to put it.
is so.
I've thought that for so long now, and I know so many people who I go, man, are they smarter than me? And they have wonderful qualities, and they can work hard, and but man, they get comfortable and they get that job and that paycheck comes and the mortgage is there, and we got an in-ground pool now. How about that? And look, I just upgraded my car, and boy, before you know it, taking that shot, Paul, and taking that chance seems awfully risky now. And then at the same time too, hey, look, I only have to work 40 hours a week, and I still get all these wonderful things, and you get that consumerism you're talking about, and I think it locks people in, and it's comfort's a killer.
So again, let me ask you this: true or false? Comfort yields unhappiness.
I think comfort, of course, I could never answer directly.
Right. No, but
I,
I'm on
I,
the fly, like writing stuff
yeah,
down. So
I think comfort tricks you into thinking you have happiness.
okay. So it's more of like a trick. It's more of a reverse life hack. It's more of a because the comfortable people I know, they spend more money, they they fall out of shape quicker. Like, I'm stereotyping, like they end up not going places, they seem to judge more. Like, if you're so busy doing and just on your journey, you don't have time to let other people live up here rent free, right? And worry about what they're thinking. But when you're very comfortable, all of a sudden, all those thoughts circle in your head. Well, what do people think? Or what am I
Yeah,
doing?
sure.
What if I lose? Or what if I lose money? Or what if I do this? Like, it's it imprisons you, really.
Yeah, I think for me, speaking for me, and this is what I truly believe. I think you have to ask yourself, why are you here? Why are you here? And that could be a different answer for people. I'm sure it is. But the answer for me, as best as I can tell at this point in my life, I am here to try to truly be the best version of myself I can be. And that's as a husband and as a father and as a employer and as a business person and as a an educator and a mentor and a son and a brother. I mean, there's all these roles, right? And they're all very important and they all require a tremendous amount of effort and tremendous amount of thought and there's a lot of responsibility in all of them. So if I'm here to be the best version of myself in those areas, and I try to live my life like that, well, I'm not always successful. Got the but that's not something I just say when we're on a podcast. That is who I try to
I
be every day, and like I said, I'm not always successful, but that's who I try to be. So if that's what I'm trying to do, then comfort is not helping me because the only way I can be the best is I have to continue to grow, right? I
Right.
have to continue to push my boundaries and grow. You cannot push your boundaries when you're comfortable. You cannot be comfortable and be by definition to push my boundaries or your boundaries, Paul, we have to get uncomfortable, right? We have to speak up. We have to take some chances. We've got to be willing to fail, right? We've got to be willing to take risks. We've got to be willing to do all these things if we're going to grow as a person. And all those things make you uncomfortable. So it is without a doubt, I have to be uncomfortable to grow, to be the best version of myself. And if I'm unwilling to get uncomfortable, Paul, then I can't be the best version of myself. That's how I think through this.
It's funny because when you said best version of myself, I wrote down what I say I am and why am I here? It's to learn, grow, and help others do the same. But it's kind of the same thing you
It
said.
is.
It's
It is the same thing.
Yeah, and it's funny how you just take it different words or different phrases, but like every day, if I'm not doing those things, I mean, what's the point?
Paul, but here, what I don't understand is I bet if we asked 100 people, 95 of them would say, I'm here to grow and I'm here to become the best person.
Right.
But then if you were to look at their actions and their decision making, you would not see things that align with those stated goals. They're not doing the things that it takes because
Right.
you have to get uncomfortable to do that. And people don't want to be uncomfortable in general.
Yeah, let me ask, so obviously my wife and I mean, you could stop working tomorrow if you wanted to. Uh,
Well, I could, Paul, but I'd have to change my lifestyle,
right,
right?
right,
I'd have
right.
to change my lifestyle, and I'd have to adopt a new way of doing things. So, because I plan to live another 40 years, let's say.
Right,
If
right.
you ask my wife, she thinks I'm going to live another 100. Or at least she's trying to make me eat that way. So if I would have to change my life in a way that I do not
Right.
want to do. So as much as
Right,
I
it
could
wouldn't be sustainable.
not to live the kind of life I live
Yeah,
now with the resources, I would burn through them. And
right.
and and that I believe me, I run the math. I know the math. Not that I would do it anyway, most likely because I'm too interested in being uncomfortable and
Right.
growing and being the best version of myself. But it's important for people to even understand that. Even if you think your neighbor over here has all these, they're a millionaire, as if that's going to get you through 30 years. You know, what you find, and this is a problem with retirement for people, all of a sudden their income gets cut, or inflation over time. They've got more time on their hands, so they're going to consume more, and they're not living. They're not living the life they want.
Right.
Most of them want you to believe they are. So I know I hijacked that, but no, even
Yeah.
I wouldn't even if I wanted to just sell everything and take my money and run, I wouldn't.
Well, I kind of worded it wrong, because the point I was trying to get at, well, like my wife and I travel all the time like you guys do. And everybody's like, oh, when you're done with your careers, are you going to go move here? Are you going to buy a second house? What are you going to do? And we like our house and we like where we're at, but we like traveling. And so my mindset is, well, if I went to go somewhere for 6, 8 weeks, what could I do down there to 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 learn, grow, and help others do the same? And it might mean make some money in the meantime. Like, I'm not going to stop trading. I'm not going to stop making income. I'm not going to just sell my house and move south and think I'm going to live in the villages in Florida the rest of my life. Like, to me, that's more freeing than people that think they're just going to sell their house and go south and live on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, I hear you, and that's a lot. That's a lot of people. I think what it ultimately comes down to for a lot of people, and this doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't have to be retirement age. It could be any age and where you happen to be at in life. But here's a question, or here's something gets thrown out at people all the time. I hear it all the time. I pay attention to this stuff. Well, you can afford it. So why don't you go, Paul, buy the second house because you can afford it, or why don't you buy the nicer car because you can afford it? Whatever the thing is that you can afford. And the retort, and I just had this conversation with my sister-in-law probably a month ago. We were talking about something that unrelated to any of this, but I said to her, her name's Kim. I said, Kim, she was kind of struggling. We were with the conversation. And she was like, we can afford it, but I'm not comfortable with it. And I said, here's ultimately what you're wrestling with, Kim. It's the same thing that everyone should wrestle with, but too many people don't. It's not what you can afford. It's what do you have to give up by buying it. Okay. So let's say, Paul, you guys would decide to buy the second house somewhere. And let's say your daughters live all over the country. Can you afford now to go see them as much?
Right.
Because now you got 2 mortgages. I don't know if you do or not. I don't care.
Right.
Or let's say you guys really would you want to go on these grand vacations across the world once a year. But now can you? Or you want to put your grandchildren through college. I don't know. Now can you? It's not what can
or start a foundation. It could be anything.
Exactly. Give to your start a foundation, whatever. It's not what can I afford. It's what do I have to give up if I decide to consume it. And that's a question that you're ultimately wrestling with a lot of times that you don't even know you're wrestling with. So I bring that up often to people. I go, look, it's not whether I can afford it or whether you can afford it. What can I no longer do because I chose to spend my resource over there?
Matt, I think we just covered truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
There's no doubt about it.
I don't even know what we're going to call this episode, but I'll figure something out. Do you have anything?
When I know my favorite episodes, Paul, are when I think of where it kind of starts, and then I see where it ends, and I go. And first of all, I don't even realize we're having an episode. Like those are my favorites because it means I'm in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
we started off with free time versus too many hours, and
and look where we ended.
Now we're into why are you here? Like that. Well, that might be the title now.
You know what that's called? That's called a conversation. You know what I mean? That's called a freaking conversation. We don't have any producer keeping us on task.
I call it bird walking. We were just all over the beach. Like, all right. Well, I'm glad we could squeeze this in. Thank you so much. What is this? Episode 67.
Yeah.
we're like fine wine now, man. We're getting better with age. So
Yeah, let's hope we don't leave the cork out.
see you, Matt.
I'd say